iPhone 11 Pro. Busted pretty good front and back. 3 days ago, she came to me and said she wanted to get the new iPhone 12 Pro Max, which is cool. I have the 12 Pro Max. The back was cracked at the time, but that night, the 2 nights before I'd planned to go get her the 12 Pro Max, my son ran across the sidewalk and cracked the screen as well. So now instead of just fixing the back, I get to fix the front. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to get this thing looking sharp again. I'm pretty sure I could have this thing looking just as good as new, if not pretty dang good. So let's get on it. First it's got to go through the laser machine, then I'll change the screen after I change the back glass. So let's do it.
This laser machine cost me about $3,000 about a year ago, and before we got the laser machine, we would just replace the entire housing, which is pretty expensive. Housing for a phone like this would run more than $100, whereas you can buy the back glass for just a few dollars. The most expensive back glass I've seen is $20. So the laser machine definitely has already paid for itself tenfold. Each one of these laser passes takes about 15 minutes. Usually I just let it run and go do something else while I wait, because the laser does take a while when we speed it up here, because no one wants to watch this laser run for 15 to 20 minutes. So that's just what we do for these videos. Now this is the fun part for me. I really enjoy breaking this glass away and chiseling that glass, and I don't know why. It's just something that interests me. Probably because it's something new. You do get bored fixing the same stuff all the time, and it's about this point that I realized that I wasn't wearing any gloves. So let's take a break for that and go get some gloves. Now I am happy to say that after this video I did run out of these blue gloves. I originally ordered black gloves and they sent me blue gloves by mistake. I don't like using blue gloves. I like everything black, and I did order some more black gloves and they did come in after I recorded this video. So no more videos with blue gloves, fingers crossed. This is about 3 or 4 minutes of chipping the glass away. I like to go in depth and zoom in on the process because sometimes this can be tedious, sometimes it can be easy. I've been able to get these back glass removal processes down to 5 minutes or so on some of the older models. The 11 Pro Max, the 11 Pro, the 12 Pro, and the 12 Pro Max, they have frosted back glass, and that back glass is a lot harder for the laser to penetrate, so it's a lot harder of a removal process. Not to mention the camera bezel up at the top is a lot thicker, so you spend a lot more time chipping away the glass on that camera bezel than you do any of the older models. So yeah, it takes a lot longer to do the back glass replacements on these 11 Pro and 12 Pro series models, but it's still a lot of fun. You do have to be careful. There are some antennas up here above the charge coil that you don't want to mess up. You don't want to have to open the whole phone up and replace other components. So you have to make sure that when pulling up on the glass, you kind of push down on that component so that the back glass will peel away at it and doesn't pull the entire component out with it. And I did make that mistake on the first one of these that I ever did, and I ended up having to replace that component, and it is not fun having to tear your phone down in its entirety just to replace something because of an error. That's the whole point of having this laser machine, is so that you don't have to do as much work to do these back glass replacements as you used to have to do. So that's just one of those things. This laser machine is designed to save time, not to create more problems. Once you work your way to the top, it does become a little more difficult to get this glass removed, especially as you get closer to that camera bezel. That camera bezel glass is ultra thick, and you don't want to mess up your camera flash or your camera lenses. So you got to be really careful. I like this glass break tool. It chips that glass away pretty significantly. You want to make sure that you do break the glass up. You're never going to get the camera lens off all at once, so you just have to be careful. I lost this pry tool here that I used to get this glass away from the camera rings. I don't know what I did with it. It kind of sucks because I love this tool. It was the most efficient tool for getting the back glass away from this camera lens, and I lost it. And I don't exactly know where I got it to begin with, so I'm going to have to try to track down another one, which will be difficult considering I don't know what it's called. All I know is it's some kind of pry tool, and I don't know, it's because it's thick and rigid, it makes prying this glass up a lot easier. And I don't know, after this video was filmed, I just lost it. I'm not sure where it's at. My kids probably got a hold of it. They're always doing something with my tools. So hopefully it turns up and I don't have to buy another one. I have to track one down. I have several more minutes of footage here that I could show for this video, but you get the point. This process is long and tedious, and I don't want the video to become boring and people start clicking away from the video while I do this. So I'm going to skip to the next part of the process. Basically, you just have to finish chiseling that glass away and then chisel out any remaining glass shards from the back of the phone. This second laser pass just serves to remove any remaining ash, glue residue, leftover glass shards, anything that may prevent the back glass from sitting flush on the back of the phone's panel. So this second pass goes through, like the laser cuts through any remaining remnants of anything that might be left to make sure that that surface is completely flat and clean. It removes all that dust and ash away from the back of the phone. Once the laser is done with its process, we can move on to taking the phone apart. There are 2 pentalobe screws at the bottom, as per usual with all iPhones. We remove those 2 screws. I use a flat blade here to kind of just make enough of a gap for me to take a nylon spudger, and I use the spudger to cut away the glue from the outside frame of the phone. I like to recycle these screens. They are worth money, so we don't want to mess up that screen. If it's an OEM screen and the LCD is not broken, we can usually find a company or an individual who will refurbish those screens where we can send them out and make some money back on our repair. Now, most of the screws inside this phone are tri-wing screws. There are several tri-wing screws and 2-3 plates that need to be removed so that all the flex cables that attach the screen to the board of the phone can be removed. Once all those tri-wing screws are removed, we can move on to removing those brackets and disconnecting all of our flex cables. Now, as per usual with these iPhone repairs, you want to make sure that you create some type of a pattern so you know exactly where the screws came from. They are all different sizes, so you want to make sure that you don't get them mixed up. Once the screen is taken off of the phone, there are three more tri-wing screws that hold your ear speaker and your Face ID sensor to the back of the screen, and this needs to be transferred to the new screen. I use a nylon spudger to gently pull up on the Face ID sensor and the microphone, and then a pair of tweezers to detach this sensor right here from the back of the phone. You have to be really gentle, because if you damage this component and have to replace it, you're going to lose Face ID functionality. I do like to use the highest quality possible parts. I don't like using cheap screens. I usually eat the cost of the paying the extra money. I don't pass the cost on to my customers. I just don't like using junk screens. I don't like customers that come in and they had their phone fixed somewhere like at the mall or something like that, and they use the worst possible quality screen, and then they come to me but wanting to know why their color is faded and washed out. I like using good quality screens. You need to put your 3 tri-wing screws back in place, and now you're free to reattach your screen to your board. This is important here to make sure all of your connections are in place firmly. You want to feel that little bit of a snap to make sure that all your connections are done properly. And before you close your phone, you want to make sure that you test the screen so you don't have to open the screen back up. You can break your OLED panel pulling it off the phone if you're not careful, so you don't want to risk wasting an entire screen. So you might as well just check it now. It doesn't hurt spending the extra 10 seconds or so to wait for your phone to boot up and check your screen before you put all your brackets back in place. Now, I mentioned earlier that it's important to make sure you create a pattern for your tri-wing screws, and this is why. All those screws are going to go back in different places on your brackets to hold your brackets in place, and if you just dump them in a pile, you're not going to know which screw goes in what hole. Apple is notorious for using different shapes and sizes of their screws, and while all of these screws are tri-wing, they may not all be the same size. You've got 3 brackets down here, and each screw goes in a specific place. So you want to make sure that you have your screws patterned out so that they go in the correct order when you get them back on your in your board. And that's the last of the 2 battery connectors. Now we can snap our screen back in place, put our pentalobe screws back down at the bottom, and then we can turn our attention to putting our new back glass in place. First, we need to finish putting these 2 pentalobe screws at the bottom. These are a lot longer than the older style iPhone screws, and they're a bit of a pain if you ever have to remove one if it gets stripped out for any reason. I use B7000 to put my back glass in place. You can also use cold press glue. You always want to test fit this back glass before you try to secure it onto your phone. I'd already done this off camera, so you want to make sure that that's done properly. And that's basically it. You test fit your glass, you put your B7000 on, being sure to avoid any of your internal components. You don't want any glue get seeping down in those internal components, and use your rubber bands to adhere that back glass, and that's it.
Alright, we've had an hour of wait time. This glue should be cured enough to remove these bands. I prefer using the rubber bands over using clamps. I feel like I'm going to break the screen if I use the clamps, so I just like to use the rubber bands. But it basically holds the glass down so that no air or any kind of dust or anything gets underneath the glass, and it holds it in place while the glue cures. So we can take this off, take these rubber bands off. Alright, this is my favorite part, the unveiling. And it looks good. Now this is about $80 worth of parts and about 3 hours of labor. You probably could do it in a shorter time, but you know, you have to wait for that glue to cure for at least an hour. So I appreciate you guys watching the video. If you like it, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you get notified for all the videos. I appreciate you guys watching, and y'all take it easy.